All right, welcome. I'm Hunter Lewis, Editor-in-Chief of Food and Wine and Cooking Light, and thrilled to be here with you guys and with this august panel. Wanted to quickly do a PSA that's geared to the folks in this room especially. So tomorrow, Kat Kinsman will be leading a session, and we'll be sending all of you an email. And it's about mental health in restaurants. Many of you guys know Kat Kinsman. She's a food and wine contributor. She started Chefs with Issues a couple years ago. And as of last Friday, I think she saw about 800 new followers to Chefs with Issues. So clearly, it's been a hard week for everybody. And so we'll do a session tomorrow at a new restaurant that doesn't yet have a name. But right now, it's called 7908. It's at 415 East Hyman here in Aspen, and we'll send out an email. This is going to be a closed session. It's for folks in the industry. It's for folks who want to come and talk, and maybe talk about some healing as well, talk about how they're feeling. And Kat is the perfect person to do this. Kat, we're very appreciative of you for being here in Aspen to lead this. Okay, so that's my PSA. Welcome, folks. This is Meet the Masters, Lessons from the Journey. And so let's go ahead and meet the masters. To my far left, we have Hugh Acheson, who's a Food and Wine Best New Chef way back in '02. Hugh is one of the way back, one of the OGs of the 323 Best New Chefs in the 30 years that we've been doing the franchise. He's also a James Beard Award winner, Best Chef in Southeast back in 2012, and the author of some great cookbooks. And also, if you haven't seen his sketch work, do you want a gig doing some illustrations in the magazine?
Doodles.
Yeah, doodles.
They're
not
not
sketches; they're doodles.
Yeah, you guys don't pay enough.
Okay. Yeah, we need some like step-by-step technique. He's also served as a Top Chef judge and competed in Top Chef Masters. Next to Hugh is Traci Jardins, one of the top chefs in the country. I just found out that she was an aspiring ski bum like me, but she found her way to fine dining while I was flipping burgers and frying chicken wings in a ski town. She's known for many, many great San Francisco restaurants, and is a 2 times James Beard Award Foundation winner. She is somebody that a ton of folks in this room look up to as a leader, as a mentor, and we're very pleased to have you here.
Thank you.
In the middle is Will Guidara, one of the masters of hospitality. As a GM of 11 Madison Park, back in the day, he spearheaded the restaurant's transformation from its French roots to fine dining. 11 Mad has garnered 3 Michelin stars, 4 stars from the New York Times, and countless other accolades, and you're on your way to Spain for World's Best. No pressure.
Thank you.
And Will is an absolute leader in the hospitality industry, and he's got a good thing going. Gabrielle, welcome.
Thank you.
Gabrielle is the chef and the owner of Prune, which opened in 1999. She's an Emmy Award winner for season 4 of Mind of the Chef. 4 times James Beard Foundation Award winner, and recently published Prune, which featured 250 recipes from her East Village restaurant. So we came here today to talk about the new line of chefware and biodegradable straws and chef footwear. So we're going to go along those lines. But
Great.
Gabrielle, I want to check in with you first and ask a few questions, because I know some folks in the room have a few questions. First is, how you doing?
Thank you so much for asking. Do you mind if I tell you out loud that I had to coach you to ask me that?
Not at all.
Is that all right?
That's all right.
So when I walked into this room, it was not the first question you asked me. You did not ask me how I was. And I'm fine. Thank you.
So, a lot of news over the past 2 days, and what I've read was in the New York Times and what was in Eater, and so it's good to have you up here and to talk. I wanted to talk about, because we're going to be talking so much about culture and creativity and leadership, I wanted to talk about the culture at Prune and what you've built. can you tell us about the core values of Prune, and what are the values, and how will you translate those values and carry them over to the Spotted Pig?
Oh yeah, the core values of Prune are thorough and excellent. There's so many. We don't have just make it nice. We have so many. It's really hard to remember them all. They're thorough and excellent. We practice servant leadership. So, do you know what that is?
Tell me.
We just always support the bottom. So we take care of the delivery guy, the porter first, and the boss last, if that makes sense. We make sure everyone has what they need to do their job well. So we practice servant leadership. Smart and funny, because it always helps out. What are the core values? Smart and funny. Ashley, what are they?
We are disarmingly honest.
Disarmingly honest. Yep. So I think we'll take those. There's such a silence in the room. I'm sorry. Those are our core values.
Cool.
Wait.
And there's no division.
Thank you. No division between front and back, administrative, floor staff, top and bottom, etc. So we work without division.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I read, one of the things that you had said, and one of the pieces was that part of this decision was to be at the leading edge of a paradigm shift in restaurant kitchens and restaurant culture, especially what's happened in the industry over the past year.
Yeah. Let me. I have to say, I'm so sorry. I did come to this, and I didn't want our news to hijack your entire programming for today. So I did prepare for the questions that you wanted to ask, and I am prepared to answer you. But you know what I mean. I don't want to take over your whole.
No, it's okay. I think
thing today.
I think folks in the room would appreciate hearing from you.
Great.
We'll do this for a couple more minutes, and then we'll roll right into it.
Also, but more my point is, I'd love to answer all of these questions to the best of my ability, as I offered. But I wasn't quite planning on doing it in this room. Do you know what I'm saying? I came here to talk about what you put on the list. However, can you ask me the question again and I will answer?
Yes.
I said I would be at the leading edge, and I think I already am. I think I've already led in a different direction than anything that has happened so far. And I said I would do it. I think I am equipped for the job. I think Ashley's equipped for the job. And what we are doing is going toward. We are not going away. And as I was telling Traci, we might lose a lot of people. We might lose a lot of friends, and I understand what we don't share, it seems, with maybe everyone or many women. We don't share a bloodlust. And I'm prepared to go forward proudly that I don't have that. And I'm leading. It's the right way.
Given that everything that's happened over the past year, what's been reported in the past year, and with you taking this leadership role, best case scenario, let's just take New York City for instance, the New York City restaurant business, fine dining. Best case scenario, if you're on the leading edge, where is restaurant culture in 3 years? And given the core values that you were talking about with Prune, translating those to Spotted Pig, what
I'm
best
looking
case
forward
scenario?
to finding out. One of the things that I think I'm pretty interested in is not having the men define the new restaurant culture. I have found myself personally a little enraged, a little diminished, a little demeaned, a little underestimated by what has rushed in place of what was a restaurant culture beforehand and has been defined by men. And the way I've experienced it, sort of, if you want to speak metaphorically, it's like, well, if we can't have the party we used to have, then there'll be no party at all. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sorry, do you think that I don't know how to take a joke? And I don't know the difference between a joke and assault? Do you think that I can't have a drink I can't have shift drink. I can't come to the table and have food and wine, and I can't speak to another human being, and I can't assess whether I feel well or menaced. So I would like to be at the leading edge of what the new paradigm. As I've said before, we've been living it for 19 years in my restaurant, and so we didn't scramble, we didn't have to put in a whole HR team, we didn't need a PR crisis team. When the shit hit the fan, we were like, God, Prune's so great, man. We've really been doing such a goddamn good job since day one. I was personally so thrilled to see the cover of Food and Wine magazine. And I thought, well, that's been Prune for 19 years. I was very excited to see the James Beard Awards this year, and I was like, God, it's so funny, that's been Prune for 19 years. So I'm very excited to see if I can be some part, in my tiny way, of the future of the culture of restaurant. It's not photogenic, it's not heroic, it's very small. I only have the restaurant as my platform. Mm-hmm. I don't, I'm not in the red, orange jacket, in the boat, going out to rescue the people. It's not like that. And I really love my metaphor. This is a man-made disaster. I didn't make this mess, but I am going in.
I think...
And we're going in. Ashley Merriman's going in. She's a woman. We're two women going in.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I'm very curious about is that in reading everything over the past many months, to my mind, unless I missed the story, Ken Friedman has not really come clean or been completely honest or open.
He is a total shit show, that guy. Totally.
So, but that brings up a really interesting premise. So, you have been you.
Let's talk about straws. Come on.
Yeah.
Shoes. Safety
Fucking
shoes.
paper straws. Love them or hate them. Discuss. No, you've been a leader so much in this industry. I sat across the aisle from you at the Beard Awards this year when you won. And it was an exhilarating feeling to watch you take that stage. And it was amazing because I followed you for so long, read all the books, saw the single focus on Prune that was so dedicated and so true and so beautiful, and not doing expansion and stuff like that. And that leadership in that way was always beautiful. But what you're saying now is this new leadership move of doing this. It's good. It's, in some ways, it could be good, but it can't be a hall pass to a predator. Does that make sense? I mean, it can't be a, and I don't.
Please don't ask me if that makes sense.
Well, I know you make.
Please don't think I don't know what everyone's talking about.
So I guess what everybody wants to know is.
Is Ken Friedman going to work the service tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, he's ready to come right back in. Should we get the rape room going? Should we get that going on the third floor?
I suggested G as the grape room because it sounds a lot better. But
I hear myself getting sarcastic and I don't want to do it. But I understand your concerns, and I hope you have seen me. I hope you know me, and I think you do.
Yes.
People have known me a very long time. I have a intense ethic, and I think I have a very, very uncommon ability to smell bullshit and to call it. So I'm with you.
Can I
Ken
say something?
Friedman's a shit show.
Yeah.
He's not coming to work at the Prune tomorrow, at the Pig tomorrow.
But why this? Of all the things that you could do, why choose?
We are having my PR.
Wait, I wanna-
This is
can
my
I-
press conference right here.
I want to say something. Can I say something?
Yes, and
I got emotional at this table right before the panel started.
Me too.
Watching a conversation between the two of you. I've never met Gabrielle. I think we met once in passing. And when I heard I was on a panel with you, I was so excited to spend time together. I recognize, and in the past few days, I've just felt so much anger towards you. I have. And I'm not here to judge any. This is what I know. I know that she is someone that everyone in this room had so much unbelievable respect for 4 days ago. And I know that she is one of the greatest storytellers and communicators that our industry has ever seen. And yes, she is the person, I think, that is many times described as she's brash, she doesn't give a shit. But guys, this is intense, and I just don't know that this is like the time to air your entire situation. I think that if people loved her before, give her the opportunity to sit down and ask her questions and understand where she's coming from, because I don't know that you've totally articulated exactly as well as you can where you're coming from. And I don't think this is a position where anyone would really thrive. And
It's very kind of you to protect me. What I regret most, and I actually won't seek it or ask for it, I don't wish for any woman to feel divided. I am not asking for allegiances. I'm not asking for you to feel like, oh my God, I love women, but now I have to hate her. I want every woman to go out into the world according to her own ethic and her own sense of what is just. And I will go on the path that I believe in wholeheartedly. It would be nice. I might put out a flare occasionally for some kindness. But I understand people are very, 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 very upset. It's very confusing. It's very confusing because it doesn't look like anything that has yet happened. Burn it down, shut down the pig forever is a perfect idea. My question back is, okay, please describe for me the restaurant that you would like to take its place. In granular detail. What would you like that restaurant to look like? Would it resemble Prune at all? Because I feel very, very able to run a beautiful restaurant, especially able with the partnership of my wife, Ashley Merriman, who's exceptionally competent and equally large-hearted.
I have a question.
What is it?
So, why didn't you just buy it?
Waxman's question was, why didn't you just buy it, if somebody didn't hear that?
I don't have the money.
I think we're in the room, we could raise some money for you.
What is your fear? What is your worry?
It's not a fear, it's a completion. It's from one sector to another. It's going from one situation to another, it completes the stuff.
And yes, that would be easier. I completely agree with you. It'd be so much easier. There are so many easier ways.
It's easier, Gabrielle.
Yeah.
It sounds simple, and I'm not being silly here, but there's a definition that I think answers a lot of questions.
I also think that if you really feel like you don't have access to the capital to do something like that, that's an even sadder statement on the state of women in our industry. If you, who is one of the most talented visionary chefs in this country, don't feel like you have access to capital, that's just exemplifying a problem that is being perpetuated. And that's a sad statement.
That I'm broke? I'm not broke.
No, that you don't feel like you can do anything. You know, the world is your oyster, and that you choose, this sort of redemption rather than saying, I'm going to buy the pig.
This is so interesting. Thank you. I see. That I choose this truth and reconciliation idea versus the shut it down, scorch it, burn it, clean slate. It's very interesting. I'd like to think about it some more. It's a great question.
Or the legacy. I mean, April, you and April, I hold in the highest esteem as chefs, cooks, brilliant people who make delicious food. And so if that's the legacy of the pig, or one part of the legacy of the pig, then you are the perfect person, to take over that.
And Ashley.
I
mean, I'm starting to get ready. If we're going to go this way, this whole panel, can she come up here?
Well, I mean, let's talk about we came to talk about culture. We came to talk about creativity. Came to talk about the business. So let's talk about the business first. The dream used to be to open up that 40-seat restaurant, that beautiful bistro, and that was going to be the dream fulfilled, and that was the gig. And then maybe it was a second restaurant. Traci is, with the economics of the business now, and especially what's happened in cities like San Francisco with such rent pressure, is the flagship nowadays, is it just the platform to launch other projects? Does the flagship matter as much as it used to?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I just want to point out the fact that you are actually one of the only people that has opened, a 40-seat restaurant, it's a little bit more than that, and made that successful for yourself. Mm-hmm. So kudos, you're the one that has lived that dream. And I think what is next for you is really important to look at. And obviously you've carefully considered what that is, and you haven't expanded like so many people have. And you've fulfilled this perfect restaurant that we all love. And so what's next for you is really important. I think part of the the larger scheme of things.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that could be anything you want.
Well, as you may not know about me, I actually find this work very interesting, very important, very humane, and more interesting than, should we get 3 taps? Should we have micro beer? Should we have straws? Like, this is the work I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to run this restaurant. I really do. It's very important to me. I think it's very important for men and women and our whole world.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Well, I was asking the question related to everybody in the room that runs a business. Just given the economics of the business, given the margins, given the difficulties, and what I hear day in and day out about labor shortages and rent, is it possible to run one restaurant as restaurants have been run over the past 20 years, or do you have to run that one restaurant in mind with okay, then that's going to seed maybe some other marketing deals, or that's going to seed book projects because books bring in so much money. What do the economics of the business look like right now in 2018, and how important is that flagship restaurant as the main platform?
I'm trying to figure that out myself. Yeah. Jardins is 20 years old, and it has been my flagship, and it's spun a lot of things for me. To be honest, I make much more money in management contracts and finding partners that can take the financial risk that I don't have to take. And it's much more effective. San Francisco, we're not making money in San Francisco anymore. It's pretty much a zero-sum game. And that will, I think, happen across the rest of the country as wages go up. We're having a crisis in our industry in terms of, what does a good financial model look like? And I think, when we see restaurants that are charging, how much does it cost to eat at 11 Madison? No offense, but
$26 and change.
Yeah, exactly. That is one model. But it's very differentiated from, say, the restaurants that I run, who have about $100 average check. So where are we going in our industry, and how are we going to fix something that's pretty broken at this point, not only in culture but also in economics?
Yeah.
I'll answer your question. I don't know that growing a company is always the right way to make more money. I think that I can speak on behalf of Daniel and I, when we grow, it's not out of financial lust, it's out of excitement. Listen, we're in the restaurant business because we love creating these worlds. And as much as you can recreate the same world over and over and over again, eventually you get an itch to do it again. Mm-hmm. I think that we're in a phase right now where when you start growing, you actually make less money because you have to build out this entire infrastructure to support that growth.
Right.
And I find myself sometimes saying, man, maybe we should have just stuck with the one. That'd be much easier.
Well, with all of the great people working with you, how much of your decision to grow or to open up a new spot or open up a new, whole different sector of the business is because you want to give that talent with you a shot to grow?
Well, you're like a team. We're a little family, and we get excited about different things. We want to do them together, and invariably, you also don't like to put yourself in a situation where people that have been a part of your family for so long have to move on because you just can't give them opportunities to grow their lives and their careers. But the importance of the flagship, I mean, it's like your first love.
Yeah.
11 Madison Park will always be my first love, no matter how much other work we do, wherever it is that we do it. That will be the place that when I walk into that dining room and I stand and I look around at the guests eating and responding to whatever it is that we're doing at any given time, that is when I am the best and most fully realized version of myself. And it's beautiful and it's comforting to have that touchstone to go back to.
So we've got several of the 2018 class of Best New Chefs in the room, and this year we kicked off with Food and Wine, our first ever mentorship program with Best New Chefs, where we tap into this community of past PNCs. Hugh's one of them. Hugh's going to be a part of the mentorship program. Thank you. So for the younger chefs, for the new business owners in this room who are maybe looking to grow their business, what advice do you give to that set about seeking investors? You know, what should they think about when they're going out to partner with somebody who has the money to help fulfill their dream?
Get an ironclad contract and figure out the deal really properly, and make sure your weight and what you're envisioning is going to happen, and that somebody's not going to get cold feet 6 months in because they want something changed or they want. So it's the little things, but the way we approach, usually we're relatively self-funded now with the help of banks, but the key is in a really good lease deal and how much tenant improvement money is going into it. Landlords are looking for good tenants, and we're all looking for cooks. It's possible to get a good deal structure, but it's in such a low margin business, it's also key. I mean, you're talking about profit margins of anywhere between 5 and 12% in our industry generally, if you're making money, and plenty of us don't make much money. As with Traci, it's like we make money in management deals more than anything now, and stuff like that.
So, walk us through a hypothetical management deal, because I think several people in this room understand that, and plenty of people don't. What is, what might one look like?
Yeah, what's like the best deal you've ever gotten?
In detail, please.
Yeah, just go into excruciating detail if you wouldn't mind.
It's just a percentage of gross of the bottom line.
Yeah.
Honored, and you're putting out the plans that they're going to fulfill on their end to build to completion what you're asking for, and then there are different levels of management that you can have over the situation, or you can leave it to them as a hotel company or whatever it is.
And I think that for the media stars of today, these young people who are getting the notoriety, it's a great opportunity to learn a lot on somebody else's dime. If you can land one of those management contracts and really get into the depths of what the P&L looks like, and it's somebody else's risk. If you have that opportunity, it's a great way to really learn the business well, so that when you go off to do it yourself and have investors and have to speak to financial success or failure, that you know the ropes.
So is it harder to open up the third joint than the second?
Two is fine. You bounce between them. I found when I had two, and I could do that. When you have three, nobody really knows where you are.
And that works to your benefit. Yeah, you can hide. You can be on a ski lift on your
build
mobile
maps
device.
back into your schedule.
Yeah.
And then when you have four, it's like you're really not there anymore.
Will, what's the costliest business decision you've ever made?
The costliest.
Salto glass.
No, listen. I think we make so many costly business decisions every day. We have a rule. It's called the 95-5 rule, and it means that 95% of the time you should manage your business as closely and as tightly as you can, such that 5% of the time you can spend foolishly. And because it's in that 5% of the time that you create the experiences and the memories that will last a lifetime. And so we make costly business decisions every day, but we don't do it and regret it. We do it with intention and with pride, because I think that in our world, listen, we're talking about 5% margin, 12% margin. The only reason we do it, we could do a lot of other things and make a lot more money. We do this because we derive an unbelievable amount of pleasure out of creating these magical worlds in a world that needs more magic. And sometimes you need to just be wholly irresponsible and reckless in order to do that. And that is my favorite part about fine dining, is that I get to make ridiculously costly decisions every day, and that's a part of our business model.
You know, I think
We've also signed rents that were too high.
That is not good advice. I just want you to know that. That was really shitty advice. You all go broke.
It sounds really good, though.
It sounds beautiful.
Thank you so much. No, but I believe that. I do think it's good advice, and I'll defend it. 95% of the time, you need to be a maniac. Think about it with wine pairings. We all do wine pairings all the time. And whatever you decide your wine cost needs to be 30%. If you choose every single wine in the wine pairing to be 30%, people are going to leave not really having remembered any of them. Or you could work your ass off to have 10 unbelievable wines that you got at 25% and then finish with a glass of Romani Conti. And people will talk about that forever. If you work hard enough, you're still running 30%. But you're leaving people with an experience that will last a lifetime.
You want to start painting your painting, not...
Whoa.
Did you just toss your mic? Wow.
I dropped my extremely small mic.
Drop the mic.
You want your beautiful painting, and you want to paint it according to its beauty, not like, do I need to make it this big to get it into the Biennale? Like, oh, if it goes into the Museum of Modern Art, I should probably make it this big with this many colors. Like, paint your painting.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
it sounds like that, you know, that 5% is, that's the unquantifiable joy. That's the, you know, the thing where you're really pushing, stretching, the thing that you can't put a dollar amount on, but it's the kind of stuff that probably creates the biggest memories for both you and maybe your customers.
I think that's a lesson for business as well as in life. Like, if you just live frugally, then you can live luxuriously once in a while. I think it's just, I don't know, that's my approach to life.
Yeah. You know, I'm scared of shit of failure. I think sometimes I don't take big enough risks because I'm afraid that I'm going to fail. You know, was there a point at which, you know, maybe even in the early days with Prune, that you're like, oh, we're not going to make it? Yeah.
Yes, of course. It's, was the number one thought.
And how long into the into your tenure did you feel like, okay, all right, we're on solid ground. We've got this thing, and you know, it's a ship that's running.
Trying to think when I started to. I guess kind of never, but maybe that's because I'm a constantly nervous person and I don't like to set it and forget it ever. I'm just kind of always a worrier and like to keep it alive and vital. So whatever, I'm never confident in that.
What about who was your first mentor? Could have been in the business, could have been on the restaurant side, could have been, you know, before. And what did she or he teach you?
I have to say I'm famously unmentored.
Who's your?
I think I really am famously unmentored.
Yeah.
I observe and look around and I pick and choose from what I see in the world and what I like and what I think is being modeled well, and I take it for myself and I apply it to my own self. So I have not been specifically mentored.
What about your first mentee?
That's an interesting question. Who do I consider a mentee? Who would you call my mentee? Shams?
I don't know. I mean, I think.
Shams for sure. I mean, I don't know. Tell me who my mentees are. Maybe they can identify themselves, or I mean, because it's going back to where we started.
Right.
I really take care of everybody. I take care of everybody in the restaurant, and I was thinking about what you were saying, how you want to keep them in house, you know, because you don't have more opportunities for them, and I was contemplating what it feels like to set everybody free. It's like having your kids leave the house and go on to do their own life. And I haven't created businesses so that I can keep them home. And I have mentored everyone who works in the restaurant over the 19 years. And they go out into the world and they are in other fields now. I get letters all the time, like, everything you've ever said means so much to me. I practice it at this art gallery. I practice it in my theater work. So I don't have a specific mentee, or you know what I'm saying?
Do you save the letters?
I have one of my, yes, I actually was just
I
opening
do.
one the other day when the news was coming out, and I was like, this is some good timing. Was that
All right.
articulate? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I think you did a really good
Let's shift gears to culture and the culture of your businesses and what you guys have built. Hugh, what chain restaurant has the best company culture? And you can't say Waffle House.
What chain restaurant has the best company culture? I mean, in what way? Of being
I mean, in a way that
progressive,
where
or of being
looking from the
efficient?
outside in, it might be a place that you eat, or it might be a place you read about. But a company, a chain that radiates some kind of goodness, where you would feel good about walking through those doors. And
Cafe
eating.
Gratitude makes me want to vomit.
Wait, is that a chain? Is that really small?
Chick-fil-A manages to get a bunch of 16-year-olds to do amazing work, but have this really bad predisposition to Jesus and not liking gay people. I don't really know how to answer that.
Okay.
Here we go.
Is there?
Fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you, Hugh. Thank you.
Wait. I'll come up with something. I don't know in a large chain environment whether anybody's doing it well.
Yeah.
I'd like to say, Shake Shack of the world are doing well. I think they've got good training resources. They're looking at the bigger picture in the way of what is hospitality, what Danny's been able to overlay from his Union Square experience with all of that onto the fast food model is really interesting. I think Sweetgreen's doing well too in that regard. But these are all in their infancy still. So, but yeah.
Is there anybody that you guys looked at as you began to grow with Made Nice and thought, there's maybe there's a pathway there, maybe there's a roadmap, whether it's just infrastructure or company values or anything like that, Will?
I think that you need to be looking for inspiration and perspective everywhere, not just with other people who do what you do. I think inspiration and perspective, it's almost like you're walking through Times Square and literally there's hundreds of opportunities to learn that passing by you at any given time, and it's just the one that you grab onto that defines you. I mean, we've learned from giant corporations about how they approach strategic planning. We've learned from artists about how they approach creativity. We've learned from musicians about how they approach collaboration. You talk about mentorship. I constantly find myself going back to the groups that I grew up with, whether it's my dad and the lessons he instilled in me about family and how. I mean, listen. I think when you talk about restaurants and life, the rules of success, I think, oftentimes cross over between the two, or with Danny Meyer and what I learned growing up within his organization. I've been thinking about Danny a lot this weekend, actually, just with regards to so many of the tenets of how he approached enlightened hospitality, whether it's through just this idea of a charitable assumption. And Traci Wilson was the GM of Tabla when I was a maitre d' there, and her definition of the charitable assumption was ask the question before you think the thing. I've been thinking about enlightened hospitality and how it has to do with just leading with love and putting that first. And I think that as we grow and as things get more complicated and more competitive, I just am continually reminded that the reason I got into this business is because I love bestowing love and graciousness upon others. And I think in the most difficult times is when we all need to be reminded that that is what we are truly here to do in the first place.
We've got this great answer. We've got this culture that we've been trying to build with Food and Wine and with Cooking Light, and we've got a ton of people in New York, a ton of people in Birmingham, We talk every morning on video conference at 9 a.m. And we've got these really, this is the cheesiest thing ever, but we've got these little squishy eggs. And so we've got this thing called the good egg culture. And so whoever the week before did something awesome or wrote a post that, got a ton of traffic or, put together an awesome franchise, we honor them with a good egg. And it's cheesy as hell. I'm embarrassed as hell to do it every Monday morning at 9 a.m. to stand up and to do this with the team. But it's a ritual, and it's to reinforce the good egg culture and to say, look, you did a great job, and we're going to honor you in front of your peers. Here's a squishy foam egg that says the good egg. Traci, are there any rituals that you have or that you've built or created over time that you do time and time again to reinforce the culture of your business?
In my business, I think that what we try to be is friendly and welcoming and not try to define the experience for our guests, but always trying to gauge what kind of experience that they want to have. And that's kind of the tenet of how I approach things is to not have it be about us, but to build that tailored experience for our guests. And that's throughout all of my restaurants. That's our core philosophy. To be friendly, disarming, and really gauge, what experience that guest wants to have. Jardins is a super schizophrenic restaurant. We have intense theater turns where we feed 160 people that have to be out in an hour and a half. And that's the deal. If we fail at that, then we've failed. But then we go into the regular part of the evening where people are coming for tasting menus or whatever it is that they want to have. And so we really have to build that experience around the needs of our guests in that restaurant. And that's why it can be really, really different if you walk in there at 5:30 on a theater night as versus, 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Friday night. Two completely different restaurants.
Yeah.
So it's about, and I have a ballpark restaurant, same deal. And then the other ones are a little bit more normal. But always gauging what the needs of the guest are.
And how do you reinforce that with the team? How do you check in with the team? Obviously, there's the meeting before 5 o'clock, 5:30 when folks are coming in. But after the fact, or is there a weekly thing that you do where you're intentionally reinforcing what you just said?
It's always lineup is the conduit. Information that we can also publish and put on the bulletin boards and send out to the staff. But it's about lineup. That's the communication point. At this point, I mostly work with my managers, but I try to get in the trenches also and work in the restaurants and do something crazy like wash dishes. Because then I have that view into what crazy. I know. If you don't like to wash dishes, you shouldn't be a chef. It's part of what we do. I love to walk into the restaurants and just jump in and do something like that, or work the barista station and get a sense of what's happening, from the ground up in the restaurant. So trying to have that tactile, all my restaurants are in San Francisco. I visit them on a regular basis so that I have that touch and feel for what's going on.
You had talked about the bottom up, Gabrielle. Is there, other than regularly checking in on the dishwashers and the porter, do you guys have
reward good behavior?
Yeah,
More work usually. Whoever's really doing well in the room, we're like, saddle that pony up. I'm of course teasing, but it's also
between the two of you up here, Jesus.
No, we reward good. We have one thing that it's not just in the restaurant, but it's just been there since the day when we do it wherever we go, which is we burst into spontaneous applause and keep going and going and going until we have the entire room in an ovation, because we feel very well, because because the porter walked in the door and we really like that porter, because the customer came back for more marrow bones after their third radiation treatment, whatever. It's just a sort of we feel good, and we just start clapping. And when you clap alone in a room, people are like, what's going on over there? But if you keep going, this is the key to success. If you keep going, people will join you, and then you get the whole room. So you have to be willing to sort of stand there like a weirdo, just
It's like a dance
clapping
party.
away. And then, yeah, we have blown up so many restaurants with clapping and applause when we're there. It's really fun.
I think people underestimate the importance of rewarding good performance or behavior simply through positive affirmations. Sometimes it's the simplest things that have the most impact. I think no matter how cool you think we are, we as human beings love being told that we're doing a good job. And we're all in this business and we're perfectionists and we're always looking for what's wrong so that we can fix it. And sometimes it's really important to remind yourself that you need to spend just as much, if not more time, reminding people what's...
doing a great job.
Thank you so much. You know what one of my favorite things is when I ask you a question and someone says, that's a good question. I'm like, yes. No, because obviously I thought about the question and I asked I think you get to a certain point and there's no one left above you in the hierarchy who's being paid to tell you you're doing a good job. And I really appreciate you, Hugh.
I mean, to me, one of the really things I'd really like to talk about is how are we retaining people in an industry where there's just not that many people to hire? Like, what are we doing to retain people and keep them engaged in a job? The industry has changed so much in the last 5 years even. What are we doing to keep them there for 2, 3, 4 years? I mean, I still have waiters who worked for me for 19 years. And I'm always like, don't you want to learn something else? But I treasure them as well. But what are you doing? Like, how do you retain people?
Who are you
Not
asking?
with the good eggs. I know the good eggs works. Okay. Like, how are you retaining people?
Listen, I think it's like a 3-part thing. A, you need to make sure that people are compensated well. B, you need to make sure that people are cared for. And C, you need to make sure that people have enough creativity and ownership and autonomy in their roles that they get to exercise their creative muscles. Because if you're just doing the same thing every single day and if you're following someone else's playbook all the time, eventually that stops being rewarding. And so the extent to which you can make your organization collaborative and give people a true sense of ownership in the direction they're going, they're going to be that much more likely to help you get there.
I'd also say that it's pretty important to show what it is to have an attention span and how rewarding it can be to go back into something over and over and over again and not constantly seek a new thrill, the next thing, what's over there, what's over there, what's over there. What it feels like to stay and boil water every day. Wake up, put on your apron, boil water in the same place every day. That's very hard to teach, but it's very rich. It's a very rich experience. The way you boil water at year 15 is different than the way you boil water when you're right out of cooking school, metaphorically speaking.
Traci, are there any young chefs, young business owners in San Francisco and beyond that you look at and you're like, you know what, that person has it. They're gonna be great. They're already doing great things that are gonna cascade and grow.
I think Thomas McNaughton of the Flower and Water Group is an amazing leader and is definitely somebody to watch and develop. And he's definitely had I think the restaurant group has had, some failures, but, that's part of our industry. I think, Gavin Acheson in Minneapolis is really an incredible visionary. He brought me in this year to speak to his staff on a team building day that he was doing. He's bringing, as an active guest chef program to bring in, new chefs for his staff to work with. Gavin's really looking at all of the right things, and I think he's creating a model, in an alternative city, if you will, for a lot of young chefs if they can't afford to open a restaurant in New York or San Francisco, to really be able to embrace where they're from and take back what they've learned. He was incredible under Danielle and was the first American to work with Danielle, and I think that he is a trailblazer and somebody to absolutely watch and to model a career after. He's doing great stuff.
Cool. Well, let's shift gears for a minute and let's talk about creativity.
Question. You just brought up a great point, but I wanted to tie it to what Hugh was talking about, retaining employees, and what you guys were all talking about culture, because you brought up my business partner.
Yes.
So thank you, and you're right. I think people underestimate about Gavin is his business smarts and business sense. But how we're retaining employees at 1A Hospitality is actually through managed growth, which is really, really, really fucking hard. Because I come, well, certainly the last 30 years, not my first 10 or 12 in the industry, from the, I'm just gonna do this, I'm gonna stand at this stove and have it be my yoga. And that's how much the industry has changed. And for young restaurateurs, young chefs, the people who are out there that wanna be like you guys when you grow up, I just wanted, before we sort of lost the thread, to talk about that idea because, and by the way, bravo for your choice in expansion, chef.
Sir, what is your question?
And get paid a lot of money.
Okay, good.
Good.
You want a microphone?
No, but I wanted to know from each of you, like, concrete sort of, modeling on that, because we've all had successes and failures with how we do managed growth. I mean, from Gabrielle, who said, I'm not doing anything for 19 years, to, all of the other, you have different stories, and, Will, I know your story, a lot of growth in the last 5-6 years. So is that the key today in 2018 to keeping people, all that? Is that the key to everything, is how you manage growth?
I don't think that there's an easy answer to that. I think that, our industry is changing in ways that none of us can really fathom where it's going. As I've said, I think that the economic model is really broken, and in California, we've been in San Francisco specifically, we've been at the forefront of that. And, I don't feel like I have it figured out. I'm still stumbling around a little bit to figure out what is the right model. My right model for profitability, honestly. That's what we're struggling with in San Francisco, and every restaurateur from there would tell you the same thing.
I don't think that it's always lined up with growth as where the retention rates are centered. I think that we need to make a bit of a paradigm shift and be a little more happy with what we have and making it better every day and investing in it as single units or just a couple of units, and believe in that as opposed to constantly growing. It seems a bit ADD as a business decision.
Totally. So then are you okay? And I mean this really seriously, because we're doing that too. We have to be okay with certain people leaving and going on. It's because that mentorship, you have to be happy.
No, you can't be just okay with it. You have to thank them for their time and help them in whatever way and become their mentor for the future. You have to answer the phone when they're having trouble opening up their place because you care about them and they gave their heart and their soul to you and your business for years.
Yeah, you can't have that sort of miserly, like, don't take my recipes and all my ideas and then go help someone else with them.
Yeah,
You gotta.
Life is too short for that. You have to, support your people, whether they work for you anymore or not.
Well, and I think that that's also, I task the people who work for us to get as much information as they possibly can out of the work that they're doing within the context of the restaurant before they decide to move on. Do you know about the P&L? I'm an open book. I'll share anything in my organization with the people who work for me. And I'm often disappointed with the level of engagement and curiosity. Are they willing to take the time to learn everything they can in the context of that restaurant before they move on to the next shiny, toy out there? And that's disappointing. I think that, we have a lot of resources to offer, and I think most of us would be incredibly open with our information. And then the burden lies on those who are seeking the information.
So looking for curiosity among your people to actually ask the questions so that you can help them along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other answer to your question is that when you talk about how, I think success comes from growing with intention. And just in the same way that you need enough money in order to build out another restaurant, I think you need enough people in order to culturally ingrain another restaurant. I think culture is like a sourdough. You need a starter in order to make sure that the next restaurant feels like the one. When we opened in Los Angeles, 30 people moved from New York full-time to live in LA. Turns out a lot of people want to move to LA from New York. But we won't choose to do another restaurant unless we know we have a lot of people who are really excited to do it with us, because life's too short. If I walk into a new restaurant and it doesn't feel like one of my other restaurants, that just sucks. And the culture, it took us 11 years to build the culture. If we grow and stop being the very thing that gave us the opportunities to grow, then I don't want to do it.
So let's quickly talk about creativity and creative process. And I think it's something that changes over time as you learn how to manage ideas. I mean, I've got this quote in my office about from Steinbeck about first you get a couple ideas, and when you learn how to manage them, then all of a sudden you have a couple dozen, something like that. What's
in your office?
What's your creative process? Yeah.
I think it was about rabbits.
Rabbits, yeah.
What did I say?
In your email, you said about rabbits.
Yeah, it was
You
rabbits.
changed it to whatever
Yeah,
you
thank
want.
you. Anyway, so how do you manage your creative process, Hugh? How do you filter out ideas? How do you decide what ideas you're going to give more credence and energy to? And how has that changed?
I mean, I think travel helps immensely. I was in France a couple of weeks ago with my kids, and just figuring it out,
Yeah.
looking at how people eat and what you want to translate it through your prism to a plate that you're making at your own restaurant, and what's the message you're trying to deliver. And I mean, and then just a lot of notes and doodles and ideas and how we change recipes or alter them, or and what's the science behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of weird notebooks.
Gabrielle, how do you decide to seize on an idea? It could be something for the menu. It could be something that, like, gut level, you're like, all right, this is going to be great. We're gonna go for this.
Yeah, it's such a great question. I'm absolutely bereft of an answer. How or how you create. Of course, it's the elusive answer.
I mean, it's the coin of the realm. It's the creativity that drives everything that we do.
I really cannot possibly answer that question. I'm so sorry. Don't have it.
Traci, how about you? I mean, when you're deciding to open up a new place, or you're deciding to maybe shift a direction of one of your older spots, is it pure gut level instinct as you're going? Do you counsel a bunch of other people? What do you think about this idea that I have?
I think it's both. Most of it is gut level instinct. A lot of it is about collaboration. Over the 20 years that I've had Jardins, I've had 7, I think, chefs who've run the kitchen, and they're usually people that have worked with me for a long time and have earned the right to be creative in the context of the restaurant and what the concept is. And so it's very much a dialogue with those people. And then, of course, there's the cliche of Northern California, which is that we have this incredibly beautiful product to deal with, to work with. And that really is the inspiration. You just try to get out of the way because you've got these products that are so inspiring. And
We have the direct opposite. It's like, God, I gotta get creative with this crap produce. From
it's really, really different because we just get stuff all the time. I mean, every year a farmer brings in 10 things I've never seen before. And there's sort of varieties of, broccoli, or they're, a different type of arugula, or there's something, but they're definitive enough that you want to feature them in, this incredible way. And so that really becomes, that's our playbook. That's what we work with in order to create what we put on plates.
The Hippocratic oath of Northern California vegetables do no harm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Let them speak for themselves and try not to do too much so that you're detracting from the basic beauty of those products.
Yeah.
And we're privileged to be able to cook in that area, and it's a great counterpoint to the financial woes that we have.
Right.
That we are able to work with incredible product.
And I know we're running out of time. Maybe we've already run out of time. But we've talked a lot about how hard what you guys do is, and how hard the business is. Will, as somebody who's on the road a lot and managing big team and a lot of growth, what's the non-food thing, the non-restaurant thing that you do on a daily or weekly basis to fill your well?
Just real quick, you said we talked about how hard it was. I was in Chicago, and Daniel, whom my partner, chef, brother, whatever, was on a stage with 3 guys, and they were talking about the restaurant business. And the other 2, they just kept on talking about how hard it was. And Daniel, in his accent, which anyone who's worked with Daniel impersonates him from time to time, he's like, would you guys shut the fuck up talking about how hard it is? He's like, we choose to do it. It's fucking awesome. Just like start focusing on why it's awesome and not why it's hard. And I agree with that. I love what we get to do for a living. It's hard, but everything is hard. You don't sign up to try to be the best at anything without recognizing the fact that there's going to be some challenges along the way. And so that's not the answer to your question, but it's something I feel passionately about. Let's stop focusing on why our business is so hard and start focusing on why it's so awesome, because it's awesome and we're blessed to get to do it every day.
Here, here.
How I fill my gas tank is Chinese food and binge watching television.
What show?
Well, right now, I love the show Billions, but I've also just gone way back. I never saw Dexter.
Yeah.
And I'm consuming quite a bit of Dexter, although my wife doesn't like scary television, so we're not allowed to watch it at night before we go to bed. And I'm like, it's just murder. So anyway, that's all I have to say to you guys today.
Great 2-part answer. Gabrielle, how about you? How do you fill the well?
Yeah, I enjoy my work. My work is my life, so I don't have this sort of I gotta go to work. I live my work, so it's every day is life, and work is the same thing.
Totally separate question. Do you actually enjoy the process of writing?
Well, I was thinking of you when you were just mentioning Daniel's response. I did, go to graduate school, and a lot of the writers in the program would, talk about how hard writing was. It's so hard. And it is in fact hard, but I was like, well, then don't do it. Just don't do it. It's so fun when you can get the words to match the truth that you're trying to express. So it's kind of like a crossword puzzle in pen. And when you get that last corner, you're like, this is so great.
Hugh, when you're checking in on your team in Atlanta, in Athens, you're on the road, going from hotel room to hotel room. What do you do? What do you do to fill the tank?
Sleep.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
No, I mean, if
Meet
I'm
the
traveling to a
masters.
city,
That's
Inspiring. That's inspiring.
if I'm traveling to a city, I just try and figure out in a pedestrian way what's interesting around me by walking around a fair bit. I go to a lot of museums. I go to a lot of art galleries. Sounds erudite and stupid, but it's fun for me. I went to the Air and Space Museum last week in San Diego. Not so good. And the Automotive Museum in there, not so good. The one in Nashville, the Automotive Museum, blows my mind. But yeah. And then I was in Europe, went to museums there. That's it. Doodles. Sleep. I like sleeping.
Sleep is good. All right. Let's open up the room of questions. We've got about, I think about 7 minutes. Let's keep it humane.
Or not. Reveal yourself.
With costs rising.
Yeah, let's get a mic. We've got a mic coming over.
That was loud.
Okay.
Hi. Not so much a question as a statement to what Hugh brought up about retention. I think it's a real important time to be thinking about what we convey to our teams, and that I think for a long time, the only sign of moving forward was moving up. And I think it'd be really important for us to start focusing on all the roles within the restaurant and how we can make each of those roles more successful, and that the only sign of success can't be management. And I think it's one of the things that we end up pushing people up too fast in a way that they're unprepared for, promoting them to their incompetency. And I think the future of the restaurant industry is really for us to hang on to great people is to make them feel successful in the roles that they enjoy, not to not challenge them, but to make sure that we don't make the only sign of success being the chef or being the owner or being the manager.
Woo.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to realize within our industry that oftentimes we look at it from a very shallow vista, and that every attribute of our industry is really deep. And learning about things needs to be something that we teach to every rung of our restaurants and every part of our staff, that you can learn so much about one particular thing and get them excited about that learning process and endow them with the sense of purpose in learning that single facet of whether it be blue vein cheeses. I want that guy or girl or woman or man to know everything about that topic. But we have to endow our places of business with that sense of curiosity and want to learn. That's a big step in retention, though. If people don't learn, they don't want to stick around.
That's right. Yeah.
Hi. With the rising costs, both in rents and cost of food and just doing business, do you see the model changing for fine dining to be more casual, to reduce costs and to make the model more profitable or to make it profitable? Do you see those kinds of changes?
I don't think that. I think there's this preconception that fine dining is inherently less profitable than casual dining. I don't actually agree with that. I think that there's a need to be just as creative and excited about being creative about numbers as we all are about hospitality and design and food. Because there's a way to make it work if you're just open to looking at things differently than you have in the past. I think you can still do fine dining, but maybe fine dining doesn't mean exactly what it meant before. And maybe you don't have this many sommeliers on the floor, or maybe not every single dish needs to have lobster or caviar or foie gras or this or that. And I just think a lot of people are saying with the rising costs, fine dining is dying. And I just don't agree with that. Because I think that there's so many people going into more casual restaurants, and that space is becoming more and more cluttered and competitive, that in some ways fine dining starts to feel easier. Like, we opened Made Nice, our fast casual restaurant. It's the hardest business I've ever run because, yeah, she's right. We charge a lot of money at 11 Madison Park. We have like a $14 average check at Made Nice. It's a hell of a lot easier to make money on $400 than $14.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's hard and easy no matter which part of the spectrum you're at, as long as you get excited about solving all of the problems, not just how to make the food delicious and the service gracious.
I thought it was interesting what you're talking about there about being curious and excited about, financial literacy. And Traci was talking about it, about having curious people that report to her, who are asking about the P&L, and being a transparent leader, And I think financial literacy is something that a lot of us we're scared as hell about reading a P&L, but getting curious and getting excited about that side so that you know how to run the business.
I think it's a hell of a lot easier to read a P&L than to cook some of the food we cook in our kitchens or to do what we do in the dining rooms.
Yeah.
It's just math. We all did it in 10th grade, And I think it's just about creating a culture where there's just as much excitement around taking that seriously as the other things.
Well, and it's not even math.
It's like
because
a story.
My
It's like
director
reading
of
a story.
operations
Yeah.
is phobic about math.
Yeah.
And I said to her, listen, this isn't math. This is a story written in numbers.
And it tells it
And
to
Yeah,
it
you're right.
translates everything that we do to numbers.
That's right.
But it's a story. The P&L is a story. And it's a different kind of story, but it's a really important one. And we do have low margins in this business, and you need to know it backwards and forwards to be successful.
Sometimes it's a tragedy.
Sometimes
know.
it is a tragedy. Tragic comedy.
Sometimes it's a mystery.
Any more questions?
all of you have like restaurant empires now, basically. So when you first started and you had like a vision and you had a philosophy, where you are now, how do you ensure that that philosophy and that vision reaches like all of your cooks and all of your staff at your restaurant, because you're not there all the time to reinforce it?
I do so through my leadership teams in each of the restaurants. I spend a lot of time with my management teams, making sure that they understand what my vision is and that we have an articulated vision for each of our concepts. And I also make myself really accessible. I walk into the restaurants on a regular basis. I will take time with anybody who wants to talk to me and sit down, behind closed doors, whatever needs to happen. And I find myself, because I'm a Spanish speaker, actually speaking most often to the dishwashers and the prep cooks.
I think it's an aspiration, and I say that because I don't believe that we're perfect at it by any stretch. When we do our new hire meetings with everyone that joins our company, and Daniel and I personally do a meeting with every single person that joins our company to this day. And when we articulate our culture, we say that this is what we aspire to be because it's a human organization and thereby invariably imperfect. And recognizing that and our collective responsibility to build that culture is important. But I think there's two things. One is taking the time to recognize the power of words and to articulate the things that are important to you, such that you can invest in the people that work for you, and then they can turn around and invest in the people that work for them. And two, don't be scared at the idea of just repeating the same ideas over and over and over again, because sometimes the most powerful things need to be said 1,000,000 times in order for them to take root.
All right, y'all, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Traci, Hugh. Go.